Sometimes statement may not be clear, but there is always a deeper understanding. It is not just about the who said what. The whens, hows, and wheres are equally important. Join me on a whole new journey on the Conversation with Augustus as I bring you discussions from religion to politics, health to economy, humanity to social activities, among many others. Conversation with Augustus knows no foreign borders. The show comes to you every Wednesday at 6:15 p.m. GMT on our YouTube channel Conversation with Augustus and on Radio Angelus www.radioangelus.com. This program is sponsored by Safe Life Experience Consult Limited. Contact them for all your travel and tour needs, as well as your events.
Yes, I was invited to attend the induction of my son-in-law, the Reverend Dr. Pratt Chapman, who is stationed here by the British Conference as the minister for the Methodist Church in Rome, mainly British Methodists in Rome, and also to serve for 1 year representing the Methodist and Catholic ecumenical programs. So I came purposely for the induction of my son-in-law, married to my daughter Grace. Judging from the discussions and arguments and talks about the introduction of that program, the main thing that is bothering us is it something that is merely going to teach our young ones issues concerning gender, with gender issues, about relationships, about intimacy, or anything else to go with it? Or there are undercurrents that would eventually lead people into accepting what's going around this world about same-sex issues. That is the main contention where Ghanaians are against it. In fact, I'm also tempted to understand that if these things are being introduced subtly with those programs underneath it, then it is most unacceptable to us. So Ghanaians are saying, we are saying, let us be careful when these things are being brought in. People are even asking whether monies have come in from outside to promote it. If monies have come from outside to promote it, then it means it is gradually introducing into our system what culturally is unacceptable to the Ghanaian. Same-sex issues. So all that we've been hearing in Ghana on these debates is that we should be very careful. That program should not be introduced if it is fronting these Western ideas that are unacceptable to us. I would not accept this opinion. Then teach the parents, encourage parents to teach their children, not to be taught by teachers or in schools or government drawing up a curriculum for it to be taught. Let parents pick it up, take it up, and teach their children. When for instance, when my daughter, one of my daughters, was coming of age and started asking me questions, I directed her. I couldn't answer the question, so I couldn't answer them. I directed her to the wife of my senior minister to help her out. She came back to me and said, well, she's taught me, said A, B, C, and D. What are your views on them? So as a father, I had to handle the issue, though I would not mention what I felt shy to mention or felt it was too heavy for my mouth to tell my daughter. I was able to tell her whatever she's been taught by the bigger woman, also a mother, is what the right thing to be done. So my point is, parents are to take this matter up and handle it in such a way that the children will tell them everything they pick from their friends or from the street. I would like also to say that because we were open and frank with our children, they would tell us what friends suggest to them and ask for our opinion, what they're to do. And we're able to guide them out of a number of happenings which would have led them astray. So government should not say, teachers are to teach our children. Parents are to teach our children. Teach our children to know and understand all that goes in between boy, girl, or man, woman relationships where sexual intimacy is involved. I have my doubts whether it will be introduced at all. I have my doubts. When we heard the Minister for Education speak on the matter, we were made to understand that it has already been introduced, accepted by the Cabinet, but the President had a different opinion on that. Well, if he's saying that it has not been approved, then we are hoping that it will never be introduced. That's what we are hoping. We want to take him for his word. There will surely be an uproar. He's met the Muslim clergy. I believe he's also met the Christian clergy. And I think presentations have been made to him from the various Christian groupings. And also largely Ghanaians, let me say, took up arms against this introduction. So I doubted whether it will be introduced. It will be, one, an affront to Ghanaian society coming from the president that he's not going to be introduced, and two, affect him as a political head of our society. I think government then knew the reason why the computer placement was introduced. And since it came into being, there have been hitches here and there. What happened this year was most unfortunate. I think it was due to human error. And so when things are put right, the system might be the best to be used. Because two reasons. One, it was being said that some heads of schools were practicing all types of, how do we use it? All types of
ways and means.
Ways and means of, taking money from people, and also placing people in. And secondly, that some persons who did not even qualify for those areas were put in because of family ties or old boyism or old gayism. I don't have all the facts. I don't have them. But I think what happened was a human error. If it is put right, it will correct a lot of errors that used to be the case years ago. There's something called autopilot these days that is being used on planes. At the correct level and at the right speed and time, the plane is put on autopilot. It flies itself. Very few mishaps have been recorded since it was introduced. So if artificial intelligence is being used to place people where they should go, I think it is in the right direction. It will stamp out a lot of corrupt practices. Even though sometimes, for instance, somebody is placed in a school far away from home, and the person is young, and it's giving a day student instead of a boarding student, they create problems. Mm-hmm. But if, as I'm saying, if the right thing is done and the machines are properly handled and programmed, such things will be minimized, if not altogether obliterated from our system. On hindsight, some of us are feeling that others should have fronted the idea and not to come directly from him. Once it has come from him, opposing sides will take up arms. And you may have heard that. Somebody even went to court with it. Yes. So it's out of the bag already. And we've held 2 fundraising programs already. And so it is to be a bit too late for the president to move to the background and allow the churches to front it. Once it's happened, it has happened. I see nothing wrong against a nation having a cathedral.
Okay.
And so, personally, I think it is in the right direction, but we are not using public funds to build the cathedral. Government has given us land and seed money to start the program, but the entire money for its erection or construction will come not from public purse, but from other sources. I doubt very much. Perhaps before the area was selected, the government or the head of state should have done some consultation with persons who matter in such matters. That area cites the
passport office, yeah. The head office is just
as well as the Mali embassy, as a residence, and where the judges were staying. Now, if government has offered that to be used for the construction of the cathedral, then I think a lot of consultation was done before the area was given to be used. The judges have been relocated. Malian embassy has also been relocated, and the passport office also looking for a place to remove their staff to. So I believe that consultation went on before the area was selected for the construction of the cathedral for the nation. Yeah. Yes, you see, we come to the schools and the trees. It's a different thing altogether. I think, as I'm saying, there was a lot of consultation that went on before the area was selected. It forms part of the traditional, official or ceremonial area where normally it's used for occasions, and it's very close to the State House, and also with the Independence Square, just around there. So that area looks like a fitting place for it to be constructed. There are some other areas, whichever area had been selected for its construction, I believe, houses, structures would have come down and people have been moved to other places and then the structure would come up. But I think, as I'm saying, there was a lot of consultation and the opinion was that that was the right place for it to be constructed. I wouldn't think it being waste of money or loss of money to the states. And neither would I think that because the judges were there and those houses were built not too long ago, so whatever it is, I don't think there was a loss of money and wasted money or wasted energy or property. I don't think so. I want to believe that a lot of energy, a lot of consultation went on before the area was selected for the project. Tell your friend that when the Pope then was sending St. Augustine, the mission not of Hippo, from Rome to England, when England was a pagan kingdom, he cautioned him, do not go and destroy their practices and beliefs. Present the gospel of Christ to all. So when Augustine came to England, he was careful how to handle those practices eventually when Christianity took over. Some of those practices were even Christianized. When missionaries came out to Africa, they equally met persons who knew not Jesus Christ as a Savior, but who knew God and approached God through mediums, ancestors, lesser deities. You see? So when Christianity was introduced, Christianity brought in something that transcended our belief in lesser deities and worship our ancestors higher. It wasn't difficult for Africans to accept Christ as an ancestor, a capital A. So he took the place, lesser deities, still taking us to God. One. Number two, our practices that were ritualistic and were pagan practices were not encouraged. I think the Catholics did better than the Protestants. Catholics did not destroy traditional shrines, but the Protestants destroyed them. And they would give Christian name to the African when baptized. So Kofi Awotwi Pratt will be given a Christian name from the Bible, Titus. They will even change the Pratt to a Western name closer to the Pratt. You see, it did still things like that. Also, names like Praba, Bensua, these were names that were people named after rivers. The African believing that, oh, the river gave me a child, so named after the river. When such a person becomes a Christian, the name is changed and given a Christian name. Some may be called a Sioux River. Is it in the sense of a deity? Or what is it? They will be changed. I was told by an elderly person from Elmina that the Intena bosom of Elmina is actually Anthony. When the Portuguese missionaries came, they introduced Roman Catholicism there. When they left and then returned, the Africans went back to their fetish practices. And instead of Anthony, it was changed to, they couldn't pronounce the Anthony. So Anthony, Antina, Intina, Intina. Instead of Anthony, it became Intina. It was corrupted to be Antina. And so, the Saint Anthony effigy that was brought by the Portuguese was baptized with mashed yam, a top smeared with red palm oil, and fresh eggs cracked on it, sheep slaughtered and the blood poured on it. Sebroni okwa ni nyame ne beye henso ye nyame. The Anthony was corrupted by the African who couldn't pronounce it properly to Ntina. So the Nanantina, Bosomentina of Elmina, was originally Saint Anthony when the Catholic priests introduced Roman Catholicism and they left and then come back. They used let me put that into account. Saint Anthony ni Ohoyin was a top gudo. Wobo chilifo gudo. Wo tweban zini mojano gudo. who seek you. They are going back to the former way of living. This calls to memory what Aaron did when Moses kept too long on Sinai. People of Israel went back to worship the lesser deities they were introduced to while in Egypt until Moses came back. I have been very close to some Roman Catholics, some priests, and some bishops the past 2 decades. And the relationship has been very, very good. I won't mention names. Been very good. I also was sent to the Gambia by my church to serve in Gambia. And in the Gambia, Roman Catholic Church is a member of the Gambia Christian Council. And we worked closely well with the Catholics in most areas. The area of the sacraments don't come in, because they will say that we don't believe what we preach and believe in, so it doesn't come in. But apart from that, we have worked so well together. And so I have read a few papers on Catholic and the Methodist discussions, and I can put my finger on certain areas that link us or draw us closer than we think. John Wesley, the father of Methodism, is looked upon by some persons as very Catholic. I'm not talking about Catholic universal, but somebody who will pass for a Catholic missionary. By the way, he laid foundation for what became later on the Methodist Church. For mere fact that Methodist ministers, I'm not saying priests, ministers, are ordained not by some who belong to the apostolic succession. Apart from that, the way we handle ecclesiastical matters are not very much different from how the Catholics do it. Apart from the rituals that are absent from our own, we are careful how we prepare people for positions in the church. Catholics do that. And so I will say that our conversation with the Roman Catholic Church is gradually identifying areas where we come together, cooperate as a body of the church, more than areas that separate us. That separate us do not matter much to us. Okay. But the areas that bring us together are more important to me than anything else. Well, you see, let me say something about myself. When I was in the primary school, I was not a good footballer. And one day we were playing football, and I was able to kick the football, and it from right in front of our goalpost to the other goalpost. Yeah, Pratt, atom. If something like that happened, atom. And they are just after cheap popularity. Want to become popular. God will not tell you that, reveal to you that the next election, Pratt is going to win, or Mesa is going to win, or Eki is going to win. God never does that. God reveals things to people. It is not made public. You are guided by the Spirit as to how to handle it. But these cheap men who play on who play on the intelligence of the gullible, majority of those in their churches, so-called churches, what sort of people are they? What they know, what they learn. If you find any big person there, who's educated, the person has something wrong with his psyche. That's why they follow them. I think that's quite right. You see, majority are, just a crowd wanting to see wonderful things happening. And it is being said that they solicit for spiritual assistance from fetish priests and other deities from the way they do. So prophecy, the way we are seeing these days, no prophecy. Just people just wanting cheap popularity, that people will flock to them, will run after them, go to them. Last year, for instance, early this year, in Ghana, we are told that one of these people called themselves self-styled prophets prophesied that the imam was going to die, somebody was going to die. What happened? What happened to the person? A year ago or 2 years ago, when our vice president was ill and was flown out to London for treatment, one of those self-styled prophets we were told was saying that he wouldn't return, he would die. You can see God had prophet. What are all these things? These are not prophets. Self-styled. I was going to use a word what they actually use. But these are people who dupe the unsuspecting and the gullible. They are not prophets. They are not pastors. They are something that cannot be described. But oftentimes, the end determines it. Some of them you will see be folding up and disappear from the scene. Why? Because they're all the time been acting on lies. Yeah. This is a big question. You see, not in the Christian Council or Catholic Bishops' Conference or the Association of Pentecostal and Charismatic Churches, those big bodies can control that. Most of these one-man churches are independent of these organized bodies. 3 months, Bible college, he comes out as a pastor, starts a church, and they are teaching most unorthodox things. It is the government with the mandate to ensure that those things that are unacceptable are not done, but not Council of Churches or Synod of Bishops. No. Government has the right to clean up. It happened recently, was it Uganda or Rwanda? Yes. That's the right thing to do. So, and the other thing is, the so-called, we ourselves are called the mainline churches. Have we failed or faltered in our Christian education? Are we teaching the right thing, or are we not teaching the right things? Again, these one-man churches people, they adopt all types and means of approaches. They get money. Some have their own private TV stations. Pay the money to be on the air. You can't stop them. And oftentimes, it is unhealthy teachings that are put on the air. And they study the market, what people want to hear and see is what they do. So the difficulty is churches, mainline churches, or church organizations, or councils of church bodies cannot do anything, but the government of the day that has to do it. Well, if government will ask the church councils that have been operating for these number of years to advise as to what the proper things are I believe the government can make a headway. There was one of these one-man churches thing who, I'm told, made a pregnant woman, also somebody, to carry bags of cement. Another one was flogged by the pastor. In other places, South Africa, for instance, the pastor made them chew grass. Government shouldn't sit down for these things to be happening. Government should act. Well, we have a body to which we belong. So the best thing is the body, which is including a number of different denominations, to speak with one voice. Catholic Bishops' Conference, for instance, they come out, they speak with one voice. And then the Pentecostals and Charismatics. I think the best thing is when there are national events or programs like this, these different Christian bodies and associations and councils are to come together and speak one voice. About 2-3 years ago, the Christian Council, Catholic Secretariat, and the Supreme Islamic Council, I think that's the name, came together to discuss this issue of government partnering religious bodies to run our schools, allowing the churches to administer the schools, government to pay the salaries of teachers. We came together. Protestants, Roman Catholics, Muslims, we went together. There's something endemically wrong with the Africans' DNA. Our heads of states travel around this world, attend conference meetings all over around the globe. They see how their hosts organize and run their system. They go out to learn. Most of our technocrats learn in Europe and America and other places all over this world. They know how things are handled. When they come back home, they find it difficult to apply them. There is something wrong with the African's intellect. And I think that's one reason why. Also, family members worry appointees too much. Once you're appointed to the office, make sure that money comes home. Whether the money is from his pocket or not, they don't care. And if you fail, you are a bad boy, bad girl, family hates you. So they take all types and kinds of practices to get money to satisfy family members. Some are also too greedy. I have said this before, and I will repeat it all the time. The proper thieves are the big men and women who occupy positions of trust high in the society, who are paid well, occupying public houses, official cars, paid well at the end of every month. Benefits are so huge. They go on trek and monies are paid them, and yet still they loot the public purse. Why? They are walking about freely on our roads. A young boy steals 50 cedis and is incarcerated. Hen, goat, and they are incarcerated. When these big fish steal or plunder and are held and are being investigated, how long does it take? Years. Sometimes even they fizzle out. There was a time when somebody was arrested with drugs, the powder form of drugs. It was seized and given to persons who are to make sure it was kept safe until the case was called. We hear that when eventually the case was called and the drugs were to be brought out to be examined, it had turned into flour. A police officer, got involved in the person who was arrested and the things that they were taking from the person. Where is the person now? Where is the case now? But someone steals hen and is in prison. Sometimes even the case is adjourned over and over and over again. The person lies in the prisons, or how do they call it, in custody for months, some run into years. Being fair. So the point you are raising is correct. People do not learn the thing properly, and they are appointed there. Also, some are appointed on party political lines. So there are a lot of square pegs in round holes. So if these things are not working well, it means somebody is in there as an employee, receiving some sort of money, salaries at the end of the month, who hasn't got the expertise to handle it. Finding jobs for the boys and girls because they are party sons and daughters. So these are some of the reasons. Look, yesterday I was watching the news from UK. An American lady knocked down a teenager in England who was riding his motorbike, and killed him. This girl flew out of Britain but went back to England. When the case was called and police were investigating, this young lady had, he was demanding for diplomatic immunity. Some family members were saying the police had bent over as a result of political interference. The police officer, chief constable, said, "We never listen to any politician or any official in doing our work. We are independent." How many IGPs or chief of staffs are independent of the ruling party? They are not appointed there by the ruling government. So they sing and dance the tune of those. This is what is happening to our society. A sick society. When people fail to tell or put their finger on what is wrong and have it corrected, they rather because of votes. I was having a chat yesterday with a very high up person in the church, and what he said was, unless and until the African's mentality is changed, transformed or reformed, we will never have the right people leading us in Africa. Do you think we don't know what the right thing to be done? When people were being arrested to appear before Magnamidu, chiefs, priests, pastors, bishops were being called to go and plead and beg for them. When the person has committed a crime, we go and beg for them to be released. Why should that happen? If you do not go, you are a bad man. So unless and until our behavior is altered for the better. You made mention about in Britain, in America, these things are operating. Why is it not? The white man doesn't care whether my brother or my sister, if you do the right thing, wrong thing, you'll be punished. The African doesn't do it because of these clannish links. Munia, the Gino. These are the things happening and worrying us. Martin Aminu is being frustrated. That's the point I'm saying. We have to separate the appointment of these security chiefs from party or government appointments. Separation. For example, you have this thing. Is this Auditor General?
Auditor General?
No, not the General. The person in line with the legal thing.
Attorney General.
Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Yeah.
Party member. Handling the two parties, the two offices. Attorney General is the Attorney General advisor to the government. Then appoint somebody not on party lines, a separate person, independent person, to be the Attorney General, then he or she will then be able to advise government professionally. Minister of Justice, that office will be handled by the party appointee. I'm one who doesn't believe in winner takes it all. I don't believe in that. Put the right people there to work. Society will run better. Appoint the person who qualifies to hold that office. I don't think in Britain, for instance, the Prime Minister appoints head of the Scotland Yard. They don't do that. No. The right person is put in that office to serve, because they are all civil servants. They are not put there because they belong to Labour Party or the Labour Party or this. No. So, as I'm saying, there are advisory boards or councils who advise the head of state on these appointments. And so, if somebody was appointed, A was appointed instead of B, perhaps the advisory council so advised. I don't know. Maybe that was the case.
Sometimes statement may not be clear, but there is always a deeper understanding. It is not just about the who said what. The whens, hows, and wheres are equally important. Join me on a whole new journey in the conversation with Augustus as I bring you discussions from religion to politics, health to economy, humanity to social activities, among many others. Conversation with Augustus knows no foreign borders. The show comes to you every Wednesday at 6:15 p.m. GMT on our YouTube channel Conversation with Augustus and on Radio Angelus, www.radioangelus.com. This program was sponsored by Safe Life Experience Consult Limited. Contact them for all your travel and tour needs, as well as your events.